Well, hi again, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Craig. If you've not been to this show before, I'm Craig Hamilton Parker. I'm a psychic medium. I give my predictions and give my insights and share my spiritual thoughts about the things that are happening in the world. And today I'm going to talk about the fires in Los Angeles and particularly poignant to Jane and myself, actually, because we've got a lot of friends that live up, particularly on Hollywood Hills, where there's a lot of fire going on, and we obviously worry about them and what's happening over there. And many friends and many customers, of course, from Los Angeles as well, use our services. So, yeah, worrying times for all of them over there. And I'm going to talk about, what's going to come out of this, what's going to happen with this, and did I perhaps see it already in something I said earlier on? So we'll talk about all that. And if you come to the show for the first time, follow us, please. Follow us while you get a chance, perhaps when the titles are up, and give us a thumbs up every time, please, guys. It's so important for this algorithm nowadays. Very important. So welcome to Coffee with Craig. Well, here we are again, talking about things happening in America that are just beyond belief sometimes. The incredible things that have happened, particularly with these fires at the moment in California. Now, in my 2025 predictions, I didn't actually say anything about this, I don't think, in what I said. It was about a 3-hour video. But if you have a look back through some of my other videos, and actually, to be honest, I'm still trying to find the clip, but I wanted to put the video up now. But it wasn't said, I might have been said this year or the year before. I said at some point in one of my videos that I talked about a dream I had in which Jane and I were on the pier at Santa Monica, and the pier was on fire. Here's a picture of it, actually. You might remember where we got one here somewhere. But yeah, this is where I mean. This is what I'm talking about. The pier in Santa Monica. Now, I had a dream of walking through that and the place was on fire. Now, I mentioned it online somewhere, and it may be up there somewhere, but I haven't been able to find it for the life of me. But anyway, it looks like perhaps I had foreseen some of this. But I'm not making a claim to that, because until I can find the clip, any psychic can say, "Oh yeah, I saw this." It's funny sometimes you watch some of them talking about it and say, "Yeah, I said it to my mate." You can't prove that, can you? So if I can prove it, I'll put it up. I'll find the clip later on. But anyway, more seriously, what terrible conditions happening out there with the wildfires in Los Angeles. And I'm sure you've all seen the news and you've seen the unprecedented devastation that's going on there. I mean, some of the basic things that are going on. I mean, what an enormous level of destruction. The fires, I mean, the fires are scorched nearly, I think it's 30,000 acres. So it's the biggest fire ever in Los Angeles history. And they're talking at the moment, and this might go up, that over 1,000 structures have been destroyed, including the homes of celebrities like Billy Crystal and Paris Hilton. And we'll talk about some of that in a moment too. And a major significant human impact with this, of course. So far, 10 fatalities, but there's bound to be a lot more. I mean, when they start opening these homes out, open up some of these homes, I mean, I'm sure people have been there trying to fight their way out, or people that couldn't get out, or people that were taken by the fumes, like happened in Pompeii. It's a bit like Pompeii, this, isn't it, the way it's going up? And yeah, with thousands more displaced, of course. And the fires have forced evacuations, apparently, in 180,000 residents. I mean, look at the scale of that. So that's about 3% of Los Angeles population. So this is pretty terrible, and it's going to have a huge economic toll. This, of course, the total damage, God knows what it's estimated at ultimately, but it must be in tens of billions of dollars. Someone quoted on one news outlet somewhere, I think they said it was the equivalent of the GDP of Libya, the whole country, and so that includes the destruction of thousands of structures and significant infrastructure damage. And I've also, in my predictions, I've also said that this year I saw big earthquake coming. Now, could that be coming soon? Could that be also coming soon on top of this? Because that was what I was seeing before. And like I say, like that Santa Monica, where I thought the pier was going up on fire, that was obviously symbolic perhaps of Santa Monica going up on fire, because the fires are right on the doorstep of Santa Monica. And in my 2025 prediction, you remember I said I saw Paris on fire, a city on fire, and I thought it was Paris. Maybe this was this. I don't know. Maybe there's something more to come. But these things are a bit scary for everybody. Of course they are, because but I feel there might be more on its way. So I made my earthquake predictions earlier on. So let's hope I'm wrong. But we see these things through a mirror darkly. As I always say to you, I can't see it all. And you say, oh, can you tell me this? Tell me that, Craig? No, I get bits and pieces. And if I can put it together, can find out what I'm talking about. And you're never quite sure. But, one of the questions when I saw this lot, first question I asked myself, is this deliberate? I mean, we have had arsonists before with the fires around in California in the past. And for a lot of people, it can be a real buzz to see things go up on fire. But if you take a look, I picked a map up from Reuters, and it shows this is what I picked up there. Look where the fires are. They're all round LA. I mean, right over there, the Kenneth fire, the Hearst fire, the Lydia fire, the Eaton fire, Sunset fire just setting off there, and Palisades fire. I mean, that's a massive, massive area when you look at it. But they're such a long way apart. I mean, I've driven around LA, and when you look at it, you think, well, that's a long way. It's a long drive to get to those places. They're long highways, so there's not going to just be a few sparks in the air setting that off. Now, they've already revealed that the Kenneth fire, excuse me, still getting over this cold. I've been coughing all year again, back to coughing with Craig. The Kenneth fire, that's burned over 1,000 acres in the West Hills area. And the authorities have arrested a suspect for that now, an arsonist. The individual is supposed to be a homeless person in his 30s. And there were some photographs and bits of video that came up with him. And when I looked at him, I thought, you don't look like the sort of, if I can say it, perhaps the typical person that I imagine from LA. He looked to me like he'd come from South America, very much from the look of him. Homeless man. Homeless people are often people that are across the border. Now, if he's been an illegal immigrant, which I get the feeling that's going to be the case, my sense is that he's an illegal immigrant, it's going to cause absolute consternation, because it's already, we've got political implications of all this. Because if he is, that's going to justify the idea of we've got to send all these bad guys back home again, and kind of vindicates what Trump wants to do, which is the last thing the people of California perhaps want. I don't know. What do you think? But it's certainly, I see coming from this, that there's going to be more than just worrying about rebuilding LA or rebuilding, helping the people there and so forth. It's going to turn into a major social issue, isn't it? Do you think so? I don't know whether you need a psychic to tell you that, but when you think deep about it, this is going to cause a lot of social unrest, and it worries me, because I feel the social unrest that's going to bubble up out of this is going to be quite extraordinary. Okay, we see in this, I'll talk about the celebrities in a minute, but we see the celebrities losing their homes, and I'm sure some people wring their hands in glee at seeing that, which is not a good thing to do. I mean, we always want people to be successful, But there's an awful lot of people, and there's been lots of interviews here of people who couldn't get fire insurance. I mean, a lot of the buildings in California are wood framed buildings, and of course they go up like tinder boxes, and they're not insurable. Some of those, so some people lost everything. The celebrities probably insured up to the eyeballs, but even them, they're going to lose things of great sentimental value. So it's terrible for everybody. So the political fallout is going to be big. I'm predicting that. And I predict the question is also coming up, and it's already being raised actually, was this plain stupidity on the behalf of the authorities in California? And was this particularly Gavin Newcombe's fault? Could we see perhaps the fall of Gavin Newcombe in 2025? It's likely he's not going to survive this, I feel. So California governor, of course, he is, for those in the UK that don't know about the American stuff here, but he's facing significant criticism already in the way he's handled this, the way he's put the resources allocated, for example, and much of those resources particularly being taken over to Ukraine, giving the Ukrainians their firefighting equipment, which is a great gesture, of course, great humanitarian gesture. We'll give you our firefighting equipment, and now it's on our doorstep. So that does show somewhat perhaps short-sighted decision to do that. Also, these things have been picked up by Joe Rogan already, and actor Mel Gibson also has picked up and highlighted the issues that question the state's preparedness for these type of disasters. So that's out there in the news. And also the water management policies, that's also a big question mark. You got no water to pump onto the fires, and the water management in California has been a major problem right up to now. Not just the fact that we can't put fires out with it, but some people are watering their lawns, and some people are restricting their amount of water they can use. So there's a big disparity between those that have and those that haven't when it comes to water. Water in the future, of course, is going to become a very, very important and valuable resource. An expensive one as well. And something else that's not been pulled up yet is, I remember last time round when Trump was in power and there was some fires in California, he was talking about the getting all upset about the fact that people hadn't cut fire cuts between things. In fact, when they rebuild, I see a whole new way of laying out the street structures there, with fire breaks between. So maybe big gaps between housing developments. I mean, they got the land's very valuable in these areas because it's sought after, but you need to have areas that can be fire breaks, and maybe they'll rethink rather than just build willy-nilly on everything that's there. So there's going to be a huge public outcry. There is already, but many people who've been affected by these fires are already confronting Newsom, expressing their frustration at the state's response. In one instance, a distraught mother questioned the lack of water in fire hydrants, to which Newcombe responded that he was attempting to contact President Biden for federal support, as if, I can't deal with this myself. I can't get through. I mean, all that should have been sorted out well in advance, shouldn't it, really? And even that from me, someone who's not in America, of course, in the UK, seeing these things seem self-evident. And of course, this whole thing is going to fire up a whole load of conspiracy theories, and they're already happening out there. And who's going to be blamed? Because every time we get a major disaster, it's very hard to accept it just as a disaster, like what happened with Diana, perhaps you could argue. It was just an accident. But oh no, we can't accept that. It's impossible for us to think that. So we throw in a load of conspiracy theories. But this one, I think, particularly when you think about that map that I just showed you, it does make you think. 5 places all round in different spots like that. That's not how I would imagine a fire would break out. Now, I'm no fire expert, of course, but what people are going to start blaming people. First thing I think that's going to be blamed on is this whole diversity, equality, equity and inclusion sort of initiative sort of thing. I think some of the more extreme people might feel that the fire department has been underfunded because the money's been going to the wrong places. Now, I'm not saying that, but I know that that is something that is out there at the moment, and saying there's been spending too much money on the people coming across the border and not enough upon basic infrastructure. I mean, I think the whole problem that's happening around the world with the migration crisis that all the countries in Europe are going through at the moment is that it's all very well bringing a lot of people in, but your infrastructure can't cope with it. And by your infrastructure, I'm talking about things like your doctors, your hospitals, your water, for example, in this case, and all the faculties, all the facilities you have to support a society are suddenly overwhelmed. No water, no firefighters. So there's going to be arguments about that. So I'm just pointing these things out because, we look at the future in this show, and these are things that really I'm thinking about as opposed to predicting psychically. But that's how I'm feeling it coming. What do you think? Do you see problems coming with this? And then there's some other more perhaps a bit more out there sort of conspiracy theories about this, because it's in different places, like I've suggested. People have been saying, well, why is that happening? And some people are saying this is direct energy weapons being tested out. Some of these ideas, I think, are a little bit too far out there, but nowadays, I mean, even the wildest of stuff, you can start to think, well, maybe it's true because everything else is crazy in this world. Perhaps this is as well. But there's been an unusual narrative around that. I think some of these things have been a bit debunked in the past, but maybe has there been some testing things going on, particularly after we've had all this drone stuff going on, in the skies. It makes you wonder, could a number of drones been sent up and that was a test run and dropped stuff down and set fires up? Is it a foreign power perhaps having something to do with this? Nothing like knocking out a major city in a country, but nobody knows it's me, who've done this, like arsonists do. Maybe it's an arsonist from another country, China's or somebody. Thoughts, not necessarily predictions here, but ideas. I mean, what do you think? Have you thought about this? Have we thought about the potential consequences of what people are going to start thinking and saying? And the problem is misinformation, obviously, is going to get out there a lot as well. And already we've had a lot of misinformation around this thing. For example, there's been a number of fabricated visuals sort of put up that have shown the Hollywood sign engulfed in flames, or looting in fire-affected areas. Now, did that happen or didn't it? Some of that stuff's been debunked and said, look, these are fake pictures. Very, very dangerous. But then if it is happening, we need to know about it as well. And this is why it's so important that we start to get clear news, and why sometimes things like X are better in some ways, because is people on the ground, but at the same time, simultaneously, you can have people putting up this fake stuff as well. It's so hard to see the wood for the trees, and now the trees seem to be burnt down. Now, it's quite interesting what's happened with the celebrities out there. I'm sure you've been watching the news with this, but so many celebrities have had their places burnt down. I mean, I made a little bit of a list. I put it in front of my screen here now for me. Billy Crystal, good God, it was destroyed in one of the fires there. Paris Hilton, 8.4 million Malibu mansion was among the properties consumed in the flames. Among the properties, I'm sure it's not the only place. It's not our only home. Far worse for some of those people live in a poor area there that have had their place burnt down. Anthony Hopkins, I mean, he lost his stuff to the fire. That's a great shame, I think, too. John Goodman, the actor's home, was among those destroyed in the fires. Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt, Eugene Levy, Mel Gibson. I think it was burned down while he was in Austin for an interview, wasn't he? He was actually doing an interview when it happened. I think that's out there. So Jeff Bridges, apparently, I heard. I'm not sure I was 100% with all these, but I think these are all the ones. And Ricky Lake, Diane Warren, so many. I've been talking about it with Jane, and she was saying to me, telling me about all these, and I went, I don't read that much, and she was saying about all of these, and some of the people we've actually we've met, and know some of these people. We haven't been to these homes, but I'm just looking at the ones she said, but obviously I can't say who's there. Mark Owens from Take That, apparently, as well. We met Mark Owens on Big Breakfast. But I mean, these are people that people perhaps wring their hands and think, oh, sir, you're all right, shouldn't be so rich. But it makes you wonder whether the guy that was arrested for doing the flamethrower of all things, was this kind of like an attack on LA, saying, I don't, I'm a homeless person, I hate you because you've got something and I haven't. I mean, you get this vengeful mentality sometimes. I meet people in my own personal life that have these sort of attitudes. There's hate for vengeance for the hell of it because they're such mixed up individuals. And the guy that had that flamethrower, was he a lone person that saw the fires going up and then stepped in and started doing stuff himself? Reminds me of the time when we had the attacks on New York, 9/11, and some other group or person was sending around anthrax and posting it to people. I mean, they jump on the back of these things to sort of feel that they're part of it and part of the power of the thing. So not just one nutter, or could have been a group of nutters, or could one nutter with a flame gun gone around to 5 different places and set fires up. It just shows what a vulnerable world we live in when we get these situations where people are going into schools and firing guns, going into areas and setting up fires and things. Law and order in our countries has broken down. So those that say defund the police, I think, oh, please don't think like that, because things can turn very bad. So on a spiritual level, thinking about this, I mean, is it karma? I mean, it's a hard thing to say that, because obviously the people are suffering, and I don't want to be thinking, oh, we want to see people with all the rich suffer. I don't want to see the rich suffer or the poor. I always think people we should look to people and say, yeah, you've done well. You've been a bit overpaid, but that's your success and good. We should look to people's success and see that as a good example and maybe follow it. But some of the bad karma that's been floating around LA makes me wonder. I mean, you think about what's going on there as an energy sort of field. We've had all the Sean Diddy Coombs stuff. I mean, that's revolted the world, really, and lots of thoughts and energy. We talk about as you think things become. There's a whole pit of that where bad thoughts are going. Then we've got all sorts of other stuff going on. Justin Baldoni, wasn't there, as well out there, and Skip Bayless and the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. All bad energy thoughts coming in with what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and pulling in all the big names, all the big names that we look to, the heroic figures in many ways. Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Blanchett, wasn't there? Kevin Spacey, Naomi Campbell, or actually, I'm not saying any of these people are in themselves bad, because Naomi Campbell was definitely proven otherwise. But Woody Allen as well. I mean, all our thoughts. I'm saying here, the thoughts of these things are creating an energy in that area, which makes you wonder. And on top of that, Harvey Weinstein and all what happened with that in LA, and really that horrible energy that's been around California, and particularly Los Angeles and Hollywood, for such a long time, where and the conscious, and that place changes the consciousness of the world, because there's nothing stronger than a visual platform for putting ideas out, whether they're good or they're bad. You're watching this, I'm putting ideas out. I get much more sort of energy from doing something like this than I would if you're reading my books. And my books affect an individual, and it might make you think. But when we do it through the visual media, who I am. You're not just reading a person that's written a book. You're part of that energy. So all these people put together have created a tremendous energy there, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, some of the people are saying out there, oh, it's retribution. I don't really think of it like that, but I do think, as you think, so things can become, and I feel that's quite a bad thing, really, because Hollywood's been on a rocky ground for a very long time. And it reminds me a lot about like the London Blitz, though, as well. I mean, when London was blitzed by the bombers and things, the people really came together. So I, as well as those political and social issues that are going to be raised by this, and that's going to be more petrol on the fire, as it were. I also feel that something good will come out of this, because when we get a common problem, it will often bring people together. For a while, COVID did that. Quickly forgotten, of course. But here we've got people with a lot of people with a very powerful influence. They might, excuse me, they might not necessarily always have the most clear or best thinking and ideas, but they certainly have the influence. So we've got all these influencers all being hit, and ordinary people, of course, being more so hit by these fires. And I'm beginning to feel that this will also bring about a new movement. You see, the Me Too movement was a bit, oh, I hurt too. It's I hurt movement. I feel when you suddenly had everything stripped from you, and although you're going to get it back through the insurance, it would make a lot of these Hollywood type people think very deeply and very seriously. It's a bit like a brush with death in some ways. It can bring out the best in people sometimes. And I'm hoping, and I get the feeling that we might see some good new movement coming out of Hollywood because of this, out of LA in particular. And with our spiritual work, I think both in our private lives and in the world at large, one of the most important sadhanas, which is like our spiritual work, one of the greatest forms of spiritual work we can do, is when we can transform the bad into the good, when we can transform sorrow into joy. It's all very well sitting in meditation and saying, no, I'm going to be in a state of bliss and joy. But when you're in the world and the world's difficult, and this isn't just about LA, but this is in our lives as well, in each individual life, when sorrowful and difficult things come into our life, whether it be a bereavement, it be a loss of money, or it be a loss of job, or it be a loss of relationships and all the rest of it, the greatest spiritual work we can do is to transform that seemingly bad situation into something good and turn it into a blessing and turn from sorrow into joy. That's our duty. And maybe I get the feeling that we might see something like that happen here in this whole horrible situation. Something good can come out of it, I feel, ultimately, as well as all those difficult political things that I've talked about here. Okay, well, thanks for joining me again. And if you've enjoyed it, don't forget that thumbs up, please, guys. And don't forget to check out my books as well, because you can also find out much more deep about some of my thoughts and ideas, like particularly in my book, Be Happy, for example, you might enjoy. And there's a whole new set of workshops also on my website at psychics.co.uk. You can go and have a look. Well, they're not workshops, they're mediumistic demonstrations, but they're also a bit of a workshop, because you can ask me questions face to face in small groups of Zoom, and we can ask about personal things. You can ask about mediumship, or you can sometimes people come on there and ask me about what's happening in the world. And it's very interesting, because I'm tuned into spirit then, and you get a direct answer from the spirit. So there we go. And have a look. Also become a patron, have a look, and join the channel and support it. So thanks ever so much, guys, for being part of this. Thanks for supporting Jane and I throughout this whole period, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now. If you look back at my earlier predictions, and in particular the predictions I made on the newspaper, The Sun's website, I did actually say on there, the actual words were, there will be a flu epidemic linked to bioterrorism. And my thoughts are that Liz Truss will make it to the final, be the next PM. I think she will actually have a final battle between her and Rishi Sunak. We've not seen the full end of Boris Johnson either, I tell you. But Rishi Sunak actually will eventually, I feel, be the next leader of the Conservatives. So I think there's going to be a few conflicts that Britain's going to be drawn into, including, I think Russia is going to take some moves against Ukraine. I think she will make it past her platinum jubilee, which comes up this year. But I think after that, we'll see a sudden and quick deterioration in the Queen's health. And I think we might lose the Queen towards the end of 2022. There's going to be a huge backlash from over the Netflix programs and screening, because I feel it comes out at a bad time. Charles will come to become King Charles. But his reign, I feel, will be short. I said that Prince Charles would be hit by an egg. And of course, there it is, all in the press today. Marvellous person she is. She does something extraordinary. That could even put her life a little bit at risk with the way she did this. Okay. Is there something also there that's not been spoken about fully? Did they also discover something with Kate that wasn't quite right? A huge swarm of people knocking the doors of Europe and America. And I feel that Ukraine conflict is going to be a kind of a grinding conflict that goes on and on. I also feel that there's something going to happen in the Middle East as well. I feel as if there's going to be a sudden an unexpected thing happen in the Middle East. So I feel they're going to take it into their own hands, and I feel we're going to get a strike from Israel. This is going to be one of the significant things in 2023. I've said it before and I say it again. I feel Israel, with the help from the USA, will strike the Iranian nuclear facilities. I said that there would be an earthquake that would shake New York. At this time, I've been sensing that for a while that there's going to be a big earthquake of some sort. And this could well come up during April period. I'm seeing a bridge collapsing, actually the whole infrastructure of it going. I predict something very dark happens to President Joe Biden. He's been pulled from power, sacked, as it were, and quite close to the election time. But I kind of sense it's more to do with illness, perhaps, senility, and people stopping him because of that. So it could even be that a new candidate will run for the presidential nominee. I predict that Trump will win the November 2024 election. And I feel very strongly that the black vote is going to move towards Trump. See him as a sort of a bit of a cool guy. I can't see Trump being put in jail despite what they're throwing at him. I can't see a jail sentence with him. But I get the feeling one of the candidates has an attempt on the candidate's life. Could there have been a plan to assassinate either him or Trump, perhaps? There's going to be an assassination attempt on Trump, I think. And that will fail. But he might maybe get wounded or something like that.